Okay, to get started, we need to find where Excel sits on our desktop. So here I'm just click the start button, and if all goes well, you should have Excel either in this list of apps or here on the start button if it's been used recently. So okay, so let's just get straight into it. Let's just click on this Excel button and see what happens. So the first screen we see is you have several options here. Good evening, if it's the evening, obviously. But what we want to do is just start with blank workbook. So workbook is the way Excel names its files. So you'll see later on there is a few templates you can use, or the one that you've used recently. But I'm gonna start just with a blank workbook, and I double click on it. Oh, here you go. So the first thing I see is this big screen with plenty of what we call cells. So each entity of this is a cell. So there are more or less, to simplify, three parts to a screen. So that is the first part where there's a lot of options, a lot of things. If you're familiar with Word, you must know that a little bit. But so this is the part where you can go through a lot of stuff. I don't want to go through that right now. It's a bit confusing when you start. And there is a bottom part here where later on we learn how to use those. But I want to focus to start with only in this area that I'm highlighting here. So that's where all the action happens. So I'm just gonna bring this to my other screen here, and just so we can give you a bit of an overview of what we'll be learning. So I just want to, as I was saying, there's three parts of the screen. This part here will be discovering the middle part of the screen, which is this part here. And we're going to start this, and if we all okay, then we can move to the other part of the screen. But I think this is a logical way to get started. So we have plenty of cells here. Okay, so I'm just using my mouse. If I click on one, nothing much happen. The whole purpose of the cells is to input data. So to move my cursor, I have one option is use the mouse. The other one, I'm using the arrow keys on my keyboard there, so I can go right, I can go down, I can go left, I can go up. So this is, I suppose, how we navigate. What is the navigation? Is how the navigation is being done. So apologies if you already know about this, but I did promise this was for the ultra beginner. So little by little, we'll all be on the same level, at the same level. So the second thing I wanted to mention is, I suppose, how do we input data into this sheet, into these cells? So using my mouse, I'm just going to click more or less where I want to put it. Doesn't matter where it is. If we want to make it prettier, then after we can start looking at how we can make that prettier. But just a random cell there. Okay, so what you do is you click on that cell, and then you move your cursor away, or you stay there and you go on your keyboard. So I'm not using the mouse anymore, I'm using directly on the keyboard here, and will be typing something. Hello. So I'm gonna go to another cell. So as soon as I type, see the cursor changes, and the cursor moves with the way I'm typing. So this is how we input letters into these cells. So only that, I find it great. You can make to-do list. You can go shopping. You can go to the next. Every time I press enter, it takes me to the next. You can go shopping. What else? Plan holidays, says. Press enter, takes me directly to the cell below. Review work, to-do list. So you can just write a few things like this, just with letters. So if you're familiar with Word, once again, I prefer even Excel I prefer Excel for these types of lists because at least everything is, it's equivalent of a table, but I like the way that everything is clean and is separated and the likes. So that's for the letters. So with numbers, you ask, with numbers is the same. You just put your cursor somewhere on the screen and you just input number. Put 10, 20, 30, same principle. I don't have to touch my mouse, I just go through the arrow keys. I can go back up here, I can go back up there. If I want to clear something, I go on a cell using either the mouse or the arrows, and I press the delete button on a monitor, on a keyboard, sorry. Press the delete button, press the delete button. Okay, so I wanted to, we know how to input data now. I just wanted to put a note on cell size. You notice that sometimes we input letters, they are bigger than a cell, like for instance Go Shopping is bigger. So what we can do is we go up here, the cursor changes, and we just click on the mouse and we just drag and we make it bigger. So you see the A, B, C, D, that's the columns of the Excel sheet, and it just can get very big, can get very small. There are ways to automate this, but we can talk about that in a different lesson, I suppose. So we can just write stuff in these cells. It's a great way to save things. So just before we close the spreadsheet and I show you how to save the spreadsheet, I just wanted to at least show you something that just is the whole reason why actually Excel was created. It was not created just to input data like this. It was created initially just to have formula to make calculation, an accounting software, if you like. So how do we do this? So say I want to estimate how much my holiday is going to cost me. All right, I need to catch a cab. Let's see, so I put in cell, good, a cab. I know what else would I have. I'll have the plane, the flight, let's say the flight. Press enter, go to the next one. What else? The hotel, the restaurant. So I put all this. So I can go back up, and just as the restaurant goes a bit over, I just drag it around. So what I do is in front on the same row of the item here, if I know the cab is going to cost me $50, I just put 50 here. When I press enter, it goes directly to the one, but it doesn't matter. Using the arrow, I can go back just in front of the same one. So I just flight, let's say, is going to cost me $250. I input this number, press enter. Hotel, let's say, is going to cost me $200. I press enter. And the restaurant is going to cost me, let's say, $70. So you have numbers here. Wouldn't it be good if we could add all that up? It's great to have a list already, but wouldn't it be good if we could add all that up? So I'll be creating another row here, and I would call it total. And how am I going to add all these numbers up? So there are several ways. In a part 2, when we learn more about the top of the screen, we can learn some maybe more efficient way that you will go to very quickly in the future. But initially, I just want to show you the basic detail. So let's say I want to calculate just the cab and the flight to start with. Okay, I'm gonna write cab and flight. Instead, I just don't want to do the total straight away because we'll be adding 4 numbers. I want to make it even simpler and just adding 2. So what we do is we go into the cell where we want the number to be. So here, this is where we have the description of that will be attached to the number, and here it's what where we want the total to be. So the cab and flight, what do I do here? So here I put my cursor here, it's all good. What I do is I go on my keyboard and I press the equal key. So this is the equal key. Now what do? I leave this equal key here, and I just press go to the cell that I want to add, and I press enter. Okay, so here that doesn't give me the total yet. It's just to show that you can just reference. That's what an Excel language is. You reference another cell with. So I just go back quickly and I say this is equal, and I can go either with the arrow key, and I can go to the flight, and I press enter. So the number has been transposed here. So what we want to do is something a bit different. So we want to add the two, so it's same. So you go cab and flight, you go to the cab, and now instead of pressing enter, you press plus on your keyboard, and then you go back up. You notice this one stays. It's just to show that it's still in progress, and the one that is a bit with dots around is the one that is currently working on. So now I have this H8, which is the reference of the cell, H8 plus H9 here into this field. What happens when I press enter? They are both calculated. So this gives me 250 plus 50, and this is where it is. So to take this a little bit farther, I suppose, if I want a total of everything, I just don't want those two fields, I want a total of everything. What I do is I go press equal, go to the cab, press plus. After I go to the flight, press plus. I go to hotel, I press plus, and I go to restaurant, and I press enter, and it's all in there. All has been calculated. That's a total of everything. So I suppose as a quick summary, I'm just going to go through everything. Quick summary: you use either the mouse or the keys to move on the sheet. You can input letters, you can input numbers, we can increase the size of the cell by just going just in between. You position yourself just in between the two cells and you drag with your mouse down. You can, what we can do with numbers, I've just shown addition, but it's exactly the same with subtraction. And I suppose I need to, you know, what I didn't really write here is the reference, where you can reference a cell. So for instance, I'm here, I want to put cab, I'm putting cab here, and I can just press equal, and I can go all the way to here, press enter, and I would duplicate that number. And now let's say I've noticed 50 was really a bit too conservative. I'm only going to spend 40 in cabs. I press 40, and this is automated. Obviously all this is automated, all the total is automated, and this also, the addition of those two, is automated. So I think you can already see the power of Excel. I absolutely love, absolutely adore Excel, the way it's just so elegant, you know, and it's just, everybody can do it. So you just press 20 here instead. That changes this cell because it's total of everything. That turns this cell because it's total of this two, and that turns this one as a direct reference. So we can do lots, obviously. And in part 2 we'll talk about a little bit more about this, but I also want to, in part 2, I also want to really give a good summary of what we've achieved here. Okay, so that's it. So as soon as I know how we can stop this,